Hello and welcome. In this video, we'll cover important chapter, chapter 2, the basic switch and end device configuration. And we are going to learn how to navigate Cisco iOS modes. So we're going to learn the Cisco iOS modes, the primary modes and the sub modes. We're going to see how to use the tab for command completion. We're going to learn some command shortening, shortcuts. We're going to learn the up arrow, down arrow, how to recall the history on the Cisco iOS. We're going to learn Control Z, Control C to go to the privilege mode. We're going to learn how to interrupt the window if the Cisco iOS is trying to resolve hostname to IP address using DNS, and so on and so forth. So there are lots of interesting stuff. And after watching this video, you can actually configure pretty much any Cisco device that runs Cisco iOS as an operating system. So let's get started. I have an open window terminal session to using console cable to a device. Okay, so as you can see here, so by hitting enter, I'm in the user exec mode. As you can see, the switch, the prompt says, okay, switch and the greater than sign. This is called user exec mode. It's called also the enable mode because we type enable in order to be in next primary mode called privilege mode. But first we need to see what are the available commands to us, okay, and what we need to type. So question mark is your friend in this case. Okay, the switch says, okay, those are the available commands under this mode. And they are alphabetically ordered, so it's easy to determine what command, and also you could actually see the explanation what the command actually does. Okay, so in order to, if you see more, you need to hit the space bar on the keyboard, okay, to scroll, okay, all the commands page after page, and you can see all the commands that are available to me under the user exec mode or the enable mode. As you can see, we're looking for command enable, turn on the privilege commands, so I need to type enable in order to be in the privilege mode. So type in enable and then hitting enter, or asking the switch again with a question mark, space question mark, okay, asking the switch, okay, are there more commands available to me? Okay, or the command is just enable. It says here, okay, 0 to 15 view or CR. CR for carriage return means hit enter. Okay, the command is completed. And then we are in another prompt says switch and the pound symbol. And this is called privilege mode. So we have more privileges, we have more power in this mode. And if you want to know what are available commands to me in this mode, I can just hit the question mark, and then here is the commands that are available under this mode. So we can actually do all the agnostic commands. We can do show commands. We can ask the switch for the version, for the software. We can actually copy the running configuration that reside on the RAM, random access memory, into the non-volatile memory, NVRAM, but we cannot configure the device yet. So we can do basic configuration, we can configure the date, and we can actually copy run, and we could turn the terminal monitor for login and so on, but we cannot configure like host names, IP addressing. We cannot do those configurations. So in order to configure the switch, we need to be in global config mode. So we're looking for command that starts with configure. So I'm going to ask the switch again with a question mark on the keyboard. And those are the commands available to me under this mode. And we have more and more commands, as you can see. So we can scroll back and forth, and we have a lot of commands in this mode. Notice that the commands are alphabetically ordered from A to Z. So it's easy to identify and determine what command you're looking for. So in order to configure the switch, we need to type configure. So I'm going to type configure, or even enough characters. If I don't type enough characters like f config conf, so conf enough characters for these the Cisco iOS to distinguish, and then I'm going to hit the tab for command completion, and then I'm going to ask the switch again, okay, are there more commands in this mode, or the command is finished? So it says, okay, are you after terminal? Yes, I'm after terminal. And then I'm in global config mode, or I can simply go to, let's go back to the privilege mode by tapping exit. You could go back to the parent mode, and then from here I can type, for example, conf and hit the tab. It's not going to complete the command for me. Why? I'm going to ask the switch why you're not completing the command. It says, okay, I don't know what command you are after. Is it connect or configure? Okay, I'm going to say, okay, enough characters to distinguish conf, I'm after configure, and hit the tab. It will complete the command for you. And then next command is the terminal. So I don't need to, okay, I just need to configure terminal and then ask the switch again. It says, okay, carriage return means hit enter in this mode. And then we are in the global configuration mode. So we see, we saw the first mode called user exec mode or the enable mode. We saw the privilege mode. There are more privileges. There are more power. You could do basic diagnostic. You could do show commands. You could configure the date, and you cannot configure the switch. But you could go to the global configuration mode, which is one of the primary modes, in order to configure the switch. So yeah, but there are sub modes actually. So those sub modes, for example, we could, in order to skewer the console line that we're using to configure the switch from, using console, we need to go to console, and then we could ask the switch what console port. It says 0 or 0, means we have only one console session, so only one user can configure the switch via console, and it's always 0. Then we, as you can see here, the prompt has changed from the global config mode switch parentheses config. It changes to config dash line, as you can see right here. So this is one of the sub modes. We can go also by typing, we could type, for example, Control Z. It will take me to the privileged mode straight, or Control C as well. It will take me to the privileged mode, and then I need to go back to the privileged mode, config terminal or config T, enough characters for the iOS to distinguish. You could use command completion, conf, and then, okay, sorry, I need to be in the privileged mode, so conf, and then command completion T, command completion, the tab, okay, for command completion, and then hit enter to be in global configuration mode. If I want to go to another mode like interface mode, in case I want to configure an IP address, then I need to go to interface. Type in interface, and then, okay, the switch tells me, okay, what interface you are after. As you can see, we have more interfaces because this is real iOS. It's not like Packet Tracer have a couple of type of interfaces, but we have more interfaces here because that's the real Cisco iOS. So I'm looking for the VLAN interface, virtual interface. It says, okay, I'm going to ask the switch, okay, VLAN, what VLAN you want to configure. The default VLAN on all layer 2 switches are VLAN 1. And that's the only interface that you can configure, okay, with an IP address for management. So the first time you want to actually set the switch and configure basic settings so you could remote, okay, access the switch via telnet or SSH, okay, from your office. So you need to configure the VLAN interface. So as you can see, we are under the switch between parentheses config F, and that's another sub mode. Okay, in here we could type IP address to configure the IP address of the switch. We could always ask the switch with a question mark, space question mark, ask the switch. If you don't know what, okay, command, the complete command, you could actually hit question mark right after the address without any space. It will tell you, okay, you are looking for the address. So I'm going to type address, or you could just add command completion. Okay, hitting the tab, so it will actually complete the command for you. And then asking the switch again. Sorry, IP address, and ask the switch again. The switch knows what I'm after using shortcuts. So IP add, the iOS knows that I'm looking for IP address. So it says, okay, type the IP address or pool. So I'm going to type the IP address, for example, 192.168.1.1, and then space question mark. And then it says, okay, type your subnet mask as, okay, dotted decimal. So there are 4 octets, as we're going to learn later on in IPv4 addressing. Okay, subnet mask could be something like 255.255.0. So the first 24 bits are turned on, okay, because that's the network portion, and the last 8 bits are turned off, and this is the host portion. No worries, we are going to dig deeper into this later on. Okay, the other commands that I'm going to show you, for example, let's say you typed an IP address and you forget to, for example, to type, an I. So you could actually, Control A will take you to the beginning of the line, and Control E takes you to the end of the line. So let's say you are in the end of the line and you want to insert the I, then Control A will take you to the beginning of the line, insert the A, and then hit enter. It says, okay, IP add, and then, okay, there is invalid input detected at marker. This is actually telling me that there is a problem here. So I need to type something in here. I mean, global config, but yeah, there is something wrong. I mean, it says 100% invalid input detected. Whenever you see 100% invalid input detected, means that you are not in the right mode. The IP address is configured under the interface mode. So interface, for example, VLAN 1, okay, and then the IP address is, you could use the up arrows to recall the commands. For example, I typed the IP address earlier, so the iOS is built in command history, so you could use up and down arrows on the keyboard to recall the commands, and then you could hit enter and then issue no shutdown, okay, to bring the interface up. Okay, so so we talked about the primary modes, okay, of navigation. So we talked about the user exec mode, and then we talked about the privilege mode, and then global config mode. Those are the 3 primary modes, and then we could move to sub modes like interface mode, line mode, and so on and so forth. Control Z takes you back to the privilege mode. Control C takes you also to the privilege mode. For example, if you mistyped something, like instead of show, you typed flow, and then you hit enter, then the switch trying to resolve this flow, it thinks that it's a host name, so it needs to check its IP, contacting DNS, sending a broadcast to all DNS servers, as you can see, with all 255s, and it will take time and interrupting you from getting to the terminal window. In this case, you hit Control, Shift, and 6X simultaneously. Okay, and then you are going to interrupt this and go back to the privilege mode. Remember, Control, Shift, 6X will take you back to the privilege mode in case of you typed something wrong and the Cisco iOS tries to resolve the host name to an IP address. You could also disable this by going to global config mode and say no IP domain lookup. So you disable the domain lookup. If I go back to the privilege mode and then type flow, it's not going to look for the flow. Instead, it says, okay, unknown command, okay, entered. Yeah, I think we hit the high points. Talking about the privilege, we mentioned the Cisco iOS navigation modes. We learned how to find the commands. We learned the shortcuts. We learned also command sensitive help using question mark is your friend. Okay, during this entire course configuring Cisco iOS, the question mark is your friend. Either question mark right after the command, like in case of con and you don't know what how to complete the command. So the switch will tell you, okay, both commands configure and connect. If I type, for example, let's say at the privilege mode, at the user exec mode, I type E and then I don't know what are the command to complete the command. What are the characters to complete the command? Then I'm gonna hit question mark right after the E. It tells me enable, Ethernet, or exit. So I'm after the enable. Enough characters for the Cisco iOS to distinguish, and hit the tab to complete the command for you, and then enter. Okay, to be in global config mode. This mode here, we could actually use all the show commands. Okay, show, for example, running configuration. It will actually show you the running configuration. You could actually use show version in enough characters to for the iOS to distinguish. Show v, since it didn't complete the command for me, it says ambiguous. Then I need to check, because there are more commands that start with v. So I need to be more specific. So in this case, I would type VE, 2 characters, and then it knows, okay, it's the version. Then I could do like show VE, and then it knows, okay, that's the version. And I hope this have been informative for you, and I would like to thank you for viewing.